Welcome to ESO Daily. I'm your host, Mr. Craven. Alright, today I got a new build for PvP for, guess what? Stamina Sorcerers. And this build is called the Dragonstorm. I'm really pumped up about this build. It takes Stamina Sorcerers somewhat back, but brings them forward into an era where heavy armor is very dominant, but it gets back into that nice damage output in just simple basic skill lineup with some flexibility. This build, if you're a stamina sorcerer, you're struggling, this build is going to be an easy adaptation for you. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it. In the character sheet, we're going to go ahead and see my max health is at 23,665. Max stamina is at 36,306. Stamina recovery is at a nice 1881. Weapon critical is at 48.9. It's supposed to be around 50, but I'll get into why. Spell resistance, initial spell resistance is 17.1, and initial physical resistance 18.4. To the left, you're going to go ahead and see I have everything allocated into stamina. I'm running the dubious drink. We also have the Thief Mundus. Okay? Now let's get into the sets here really quick. I'm going to be using Spriggans and Dragon. Okay, let's get into it piece by piece here first. And I'll explain why. First, I have the Spriggans Maul. Right now, this is defending. It's glyphed with Oblivion. The glyph is ideal, but I really want precise. I want that critical value over 50, but you know, right now it's defending, which isn't a bad thing. So if you like the defending, you can go with it. But why the maul? It's simple. When you go into your skills and you go into a two-hander passive and you go down into heavy weapons, maces causes your attacks to ignore 20% of your target's physical resistance. Stamina users have a lot of issues with penetrating values. That's why the maul is a really good asset for PvP. In PvE you can overextend, but a lot of PvPers stack resistance, so it comes in handy. Okay, we're going to be also using Spriggan's Bow. I do have it glyphed with increase, but I don't use the enchantment. Why? I use the drains. So I got the triple drain going on here. Hey, if they don't have resources, they don't last long. So I'm going to use it, believe it. So there's that. And the bow is traded in precise or decisive. It's decisive. That is ideal because you get more critical value on both sides, and decisive actually helps you regain ultimate faster. So I'm going to go ahead with it. I like it, but if you want to go with infused or something else, you can do that. Infused works out great. Also, Spriggan's Helmet, medium, impen, ideal. Curse of the Dragon, infused, ideal. And let's get into the Spriggans. Spriggans is going to be a necessity set. Why? Because it has the stamina, has weapon damage, but we need penetration. Remember, we're not using sharpen, we're not using the lever. We do have the maul, but we still need a penetrating value set. That's why we're going to go with Spriggans. Spriggans is flexible with a lot of builds, especially if you're not using the lever. So I like the Spriggans because of its flexibility. Now, I'm going to be using the Dragon set because with the Dragon set, it gives me magical recovery, which is kind of like, okay, not really. But it gives me healing received. It gives me max health. But this is the biggest deal. It reduces the cost of my ultimate's abilities by 15%. Now, when I go into the passives for the sorcerer, right, I'm going to go ahead and get, I want to say it's Power Stone. I get an additional 15%. I'm reducing my ultimate's cost by 30%, guys. That's why I'm going to be using Dragon. I have a very fast ultimate cast time, so keep that in mind. So going back into it, we also have the Storm Epilot's Pauldrons, light armor, because we're going to keep that Undaunted Metal passive. So we have one medium and one light. That's divine. That helps with crit percentage. If you wanted to go with less impen, you can, because currently my impen is set at 2129. If you want to go with less and you want to go with an extra divine, get your critical value up that way, since we're running the thief, you can do that with the head or other pieces. But you need some impen. So divine, stamina, Let me over here. Okay. We also have the dragon belt impen stamina, gauntlets of the dragon glyph stamina impen, greaves of the dragon infused stamina, and sabatons of the dragon. So we got 5 pieces of dragon, right? Also, we're going to use Spriggan's jewelry, right? And one's 2 are recovery, one's weapon damage. And that's pretty much how the gear goes. Now, on the back bar, nothing really changes as far as stats except the critical value. All right, so 36,005. Now, when I hit that buff, you're going to go ahead and see 1,816. So it's really nice. Let's go ahead and get into the skills here. On both sides, this is kind of like my buff bar and my utility bar. So I have critical surge, no surprise. Well, I'm going to be using venom arrow on this. The reason I like the venom arrow on certain builds and certain times, it has an interrupt, and it has an off balance, and it has a stun. It just comes in handy. You know, it's very, especially against spellcasters, it comes in so handy to have this ability. A lot of people like the injection, but a lot of times in PvP, it's about CCs and counterplay. Venom Arrow kind of lends itself to me for that, so I'm going to go ahead and use it. I have the Resolving Vigor. Even though I'm going to have a healing effect from Critical Surge, I need a secondary effect. This is going to put a hot. I can easily swap this in throughout a nice fight and keep those hots rolling. Or if you want to, you can actually go with, in Dark Magic, you can go with the Dark Conversion. That would give it an instant heal, but you have a 1.2 second cast time, where Vigor is instant. Also, I'm going to be using Bound Armaments on both bars. Now, here's the deal, guys. Bound Armaments is going to increase my stamina by 8%. That might not seem like a lot, but it is. But the problem of it is, I'm using a heavy armor set. So I'm forced to use Camouflage Hunter. Why? Because I want the Major Savagery, right? Plus, if I'm in stealth, I'm getting an extra bonus. So I want both of these on my bars. So I'm going to have to bank more on ultimate because of the way that the setup's designed. Now, keep in mind, I also have Bastion for an alternative ranged ultimate. And it's kind of nice because it only costs 128 ultimate with this build. Yeah, it's yeah, 128 ultimate doesn't take me long. And keep in mind, I'm using Decisive Bow. So when I weave, I can get this. Now, here's the Duel Bar. Stampede. I'm not using Critical Rush. I'm using the Stampede. Why am I using Stampede? Once again, it's about CCs. I want to go ahead, reduce their movement speed by 60% for 8 seconds. It's always going to be a critical strike when I go ahead and launch, but this is going to reduce their movement speed, especially against Nightblades who like to cloak out and just keep, running. You can get that major expedition. I want to slow them down. I want to bring them down. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Stampede. Also, I'm going to be using the Dizzy Swing versus Wrecking Blow. Yes, I know Wrecking Blow gives you the Empower, but once again, I want the stunning effect. So I want the stun, I want the knockback. And yes, they have a chance to pop the immovable pot, but once that goes ahead and is on cooldown, I can go ahead, and this is my spam. So yeah, am I spamming this ability? Well, everybody else does, so guess what? Yeah, I am too. I'm going to also be using the Hurricane. Hurricane's got 2 benefits for me here. One, it has an AoE effect, and it has a damaging effect. Nightblades, it keeps Nightblades while they're rooted, they're slowed down from the Stampede. I can keep them from cloaking, right? As long as I'm staying on top of them, they can't cloak out. So it becomes very, very resourceful in that instance. Also, another benefit I'm going to have from this is I'm going to get the Major Resolve, Major Ward, and Minor Expedition. This is going to further increase my physical and spell resistance on top of the Bound Armaments, which gives me the Minor Resolve and the Minor Resolve, increasing my physical resistance. So I'm getting increased resistance just from these 2 abilities on top of being able to keep on top of Nightblades. So yeah, great. Now, you notice that because I'm using the Bound Armaments and the Camouflage Hunter, I don't have a finisher, right? Because a lot of people typically go ahead and run Executioner, right? That's typical, but I can't because I want that bound armament for the increase. But that's why I'm wearing dragons. Why? Because Onslaught is only costing me 110. So, a nice thing about Onslaught, this attack ignores the target's resistance, grants me further physical and spell resistance equal to the amount ignored for 8 seconds. If I kill the enemy with this, which is basically my finisher, it's going to go ahead and restore the ultimate's cost to me completely. So it's actually my finisher. So I don't need Executioner. I'm using the Onslaught for the finisher. So it has a lot of flexibilities. Like, for example, if you don't want to use the bound armament, say you don't, you can put in another ability here, like the finisher. You can do that. Or you can run on the bow side caltrops or snipe, whatever you want if you don't want to run the bound armaments. It has that flexibility. I just like it because it's giving me extra resistance, and on top of it, I'm getting that 8% extra to the stamina. Also, if you don't want to use it, you can use a critical surge, things like that. But this is just something very simple. It takes, the Stamina Sorcerer back to when it only had 1 or 2 abilities. And everything was about, a fast, pace, hard hitting. Everything with this, with the changes, has promoted heavy armor in PvP. And I'm one of those players. I'm a player that takes advantage of heavy armor in a lot of builds. I don't do it in every build, but I do it in a lot of builds. And this build for the Stamina Sorcerer with all those reductions, with 30% reduction in ultimate cost, just makes sense. It's just a hard-hitting, powerful build that just, it's quick. It's fast. I don't need a lot of abilities, but I need a lot of CCs. I need a lot of effects that play counterplay. And that's what this build's set around. So I don't have to, nitpick and choose my fights. Like say, oh, that's, a Magicka Sorc. I can't go in on that. Oh, that's a Nightblade. I'm not built for that. This build takes that back to, like, I don't care what class you are, I can counter it somehow, some way. And that's what this build kind of gives you advantage of. It simplifies it, doesn't make it overbearing for even new players or vet players. There's no proc sets, none of that shit. This just takes it back to the basics. Yes, it's heavy armor. Yes, it's going to be a pain in the ass, but it has high survivability and a nice damage output. And that's why I'm calling it the Dragonstorm. It uses the dragon, and I'm using the storm abilities from the sorcerer. So there you guys have it. If you have any questions or comments, please post below. I hope you guys enjoy this build. I'm hoping to get some footage this weekend, and I hope to post a highlight vid with this build. But once again, thank you for watching, and have a nice day.